appreciate you, Mr. Jurgensen, because you help us with just life in general, because middle school is harder than elementary school, and you help us through it every day, and I look forward to your class at the end of the day.
I appreciate you, Mr. Kane, because you've inspired me to work really hard in band, and thank you, because I look forward to band every day.
I want to thank Mrs. Johnson for dealing with all the kids in our class.
Did she do a good job at that?
Yeah, very good job.
I'm giving my shout out to Mr. Jurgensen because he teaches us more than just history.
I'm going to give a shout out to Miss Maddie because she's super nice and just an awesome teacher.
I'm giving my shout out to Miss Cardino because she always helps me succeed in English.
I give my shout out to Mr. Murphy because he's really funny and a great PE teacher.
I'm giving my shout out to Mr. Morgan for making very funny jokes and being an awesome teacher.
I want to give a shout out to Miss Swartz because she's very inspiring to do our work, and she helps me when I have problems and troubles with stuff, so thank you.
I'd like to give a shout out to Mr. Morgan for making math fun.
I'd like to give a shout out to Mrs. Cartwright for working hard to teach us all of our English.
I'd like to give a shout out to Mr. Kane to make music fun.
I'd like to give a shout out to Miss Farah because she helps me study for my tests.
I'd like to give a shout out to Mrs. Wilson for inspiring me to do my best and go above and beyond the standards.
I appreciate Miss Hunt because she is always there for me when I'm feeling hurt.
I'd like to thank Miss Dunnigan for doing amazing research on whatever science topics we're doing. She goes above and beyond, where if we're doing like mousetrap cars, she gives us a website with all this extra stuff. It's really great.
I'd like to give a shout out to Mrs. Matzat because of all the extra credit she gives us. I'd like to give a shout out to Mr. Pfeffer because he has fun science games.
I'd like to give a shout out to Miss Larson for letting us play frisbee on the field and other good sports.
Miss Hubbard is great because she uses different math strategies and she uses the clicker.
This is a shout out for Mrs. Anderson.
She's really nice and she's with her tone of voice and she's really funny.
I'd like to give a shout out to Miss Dosh because she makes projects really, really fun.
I'd like to give a shout out to Mrs. Drever because she is fair about homework.
Thank you, Mrs. Birch, for letting us do awesome science projects.
Thank you, Mrs. Chuxler, for letting us do art on Halloween.
I want to give a shout out to Mrs. Reyes for teaching us lots of fun stuff.
I shout out Mr. Chop for being brave enough to do the Ice Bucket Challenge.
I'm going to give a shout out to Mr. Chop for wearing a Superman costume on Halloween.
Here's a shout out to Mr. Morgan for teaching me M equals rise over run and burning it into my brain.
Mrs. Hubbard inspires students to reach their highest potential. She helps students through their tough times and helps them get to where they need to be in their learning.
Shout out to Mr. Chop for being really kind to me and teaching me all about leadership.
I'm giving a shout out to Miss Drecky because she's very helpful and always explains things clearly.
I'm giving my shout out to Miss Bardini because she's nice and always greets me with a smile.
Mrs. Bardini is a really caring teacher because she's always funny and has a good sense of humor.
Shout out to Miss Skian, best teacher ever.
I really liked starting on our endangered species project, and
Miss
Mrs.
Matza has had a good influence on me because she's really nice and she taught me a lot about English and she helped me respect English more than I did in 5th grade. I want to give out a shout out to Miss Debenham, that she's always striving for us to do our best.
Shout out to Mr. Rico. You're nice and you're really funny.
Shout out to Mr. Wetmore for teaching me how to draw.
We're talking about how Miss Geezy is perfect. And Miss Drever, my Dosh.
Well, in his opinion, I haven't met them yet. My opinion, Miss Reyes. She's a great influence on me. She's always smiling. She gives you second tries. She's not one of those teachers that yells at you for getting the question wrong the first time.
A shout out to Mrs. Coulter, who is a very nice teacher and is very patient for every student that's in her class. I enjoy to be in her class.
Shout out to Mr. Wetmore for all his amazing and funny stories.
This is a shout out to Mrs. Jones. She's my favorite teacher because she's awesome and she always helps me get my homework done, even though I hate math.
We want to give a shout out to Miss Maddie because she's really nice and super fun. We love to play bingo with her.
She's just a very good Spanish teacher, and I love playing bingo in her class.